in John chapter 2. We're in the second half of John chapter 2. And last week we looked at Jesus and his first public miracle. So today is Super Sunday. So I'm going to ask a couple questions here. And all I'm going to ask is that you're honest. So who today is rooting for, okay? This is the team that you're actually pulling for. Who today is rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs? Okay. Who is rooting for I almost said the New England Patriots, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Well, they're just like in it every other year, right? All right. Who's rooting for Tampa Bay? Okay. Who here likes Patrick Mahomes better than Tom Brady? Okay, and who here likes Tom Brady better than Patrick Mahomes? Listen, not even Tom Brady's mom. I'm just kidding. So, all right, now here we go. This is a tough one. Who thinks that the NFL is fixed and they're just going to give this to Brady anyway? All right, okay, that's fair. And then who is just going to watch for the commercials? All right, because you're going to be disappointed because every year we watch for the commercials, they end up being really, really bad, right? All right, there was one other question I had. Let's see. Who thinks it's fixed? Who here? So Patrick Mahomes is 25, 26? Let's say 20, 25. All right, Patrick Mahomes is 25. Tom Brady is 45. Or 43, excuse me. So he is 25, he's 43. So, because you get to the point where you realize that, oh my goodness, like Tom Brady's closer to my age, and then Patrick Mahomes is closer to my kid's age, right? So who is going to root for Tom Brady just because he's old? All right, there we go. Listen, you would think that's a funny thing, but it's like people are actually doing that. They're like, you know what? They kind of like to see one for the old guy. Who is so sick of Tom Brady, they just want to see Patrick Mahomes root right past him so we can start calling him the GOAT. All right, and who realistically at the end of the day just doesn't care? There we go. All right. Now, wait, hold on a second. Okay. Notice all those hands up. How many of you right now, if the Browns were playing, would say that they cared? Okay, so because Deanna, we have all the kids coming over, and she's like, okay, so who are we rooting for? And I said, I'll tell you one team we're not rooting for, and that's the Browns. And she's like, are you crazy? She's like, they're the local team, because we're Steelers fans. She's like, it doesn't matter. She goes, this is the local team, this is the local, guys, and we have to root for them. And I said, I'm not rooting for them. She's like, why not? I'm like, because they're not playing. She's like, oh, okay, so we moved on from there. Now, that's not as bad as my sister, who literally posted yesterday that, wait a second, there's a Super Bowl. I thought it got canceled. So she's a little bit, out there. So anyway, so this is Super Sunday, right? And so we get a chance to start Super Sunday off in church, which is a really nice thing to have happen. We had this weather that was supposed to be coming. The weather didn't come as badly as it thought, so we got a chance to get up. Even though there is some snow, we get a chance to come up and really learn from God's Word. And so last week, we learned with this first miracle that Jesus had when he turned water into wine, we learned that he had picked his disciples, that they had come together on the first day of the job, that he performed this miracle. So the disciples have no clue what is coming next. They don't know what it is that he is going to do next, but they know that, hey, if he's going to start off with a miracle like this that no one's ever done, he's going to do it at this wonderful celebration, everyone's going to be talking about it, we've got to stick around because there's going to be some serious headlines. And this is going to be cool no matter what it is that happens next. And so they have signed up because in their mind, everything that is taking place is going to be this positive, headline grabbing, going to hit the internet, we're going to go viral, people are going to see us, I'm going to be famous, whatever it might be. So they were not the best of the best of the disciples. They were kind of the leftovers, and Jesus had brought them, as his disciples. And so they were at the celebration at first, and now they've left the celebration, and now they're going to an area. And the reason they're going to this area is because there is a feast that is coming up. Now, it's very important to understand today there are actually two feasts that are tied together, as we're going to see here. The first one is the Feast of Passover. The second one is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And by the way, if we're on the backside of the Bible study, so if you guys have the Bible study part with you, there are two feasts that are actually taking place at this time. This would be the busiest time of year for everyone in Jerusalem. This is when these two come together where, oh my goodness, we're gonna learn about Passover, we're gonna celebrate Passover, which is when the angel flew over and whoever didn't have blood on the doorpost, all those babies were killed, but anyone that had the blood on the doorpost because of the sacrifice, they were saved, and all the Jewish babies were saved. And then on top of it, we're gonna have the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, which is this other feast that takes place. And this feast that takes place, they're gonna be back to back. Here's what's going on. The most people that you're gonna find in Jerusalem is going to be at this time. Anybody that had left, anybody that had gone to another city or to another country, another region, whatever it might be, they're all coming back now at this time because they are required to attend at least one feast as a Jewish male. And as a Jewish male, some would just travel back on their own, some would bring their entire family with them. In other words, this week is their Super Sunday week. This is the culmination of everything. This is when, you name it, this is what's happened within our heritage, within our culture, within our people. Oh my goodness, we all get a chance to come back for it. And the cool thing about it is, nobody needs a ticket. Whoever just wants to show up can show up. They can show up right when Passover starts. They can show up the day before, the week before. They can stay just for Passover and leave. You know, we're here already. Let's go ahead and stay for the next week. Nope, I've got to get back, so I've got a family to take care of. You know, I don't want to go to Passover because it's too busy, so I'm going to go to the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. This is Super Sunday. This is Super Bowl week, the entire week in Jerusalem. And everybody's going to be there. And so year after year, what would happen is they would come into the temple, and when they would come into the temple, they would have different regions within the temple, and they would come in and they would find these guys on the outer region, and in the outer region, there would be people there that were changing money and also handing out sacrifices. And when I say handing out sacrifices, they were handing them out based on payment. And so the temple is a very big area right now because when people are coming in, they see all these people that are sitting at these tables, and they're all around these different tables, and they either have money or behind them they have animals that you can purchase. See, at one point you could bring your own animal. But then one day the priest figured out that, everyone's bringing their own animal to sacrifice, but, some of these aren't really the best of the best. And we want to give the example because if we went back to Cain and Abel, Cain didn't give the best of the best. Abel did. And look what it cost him. He just kind of brought his leftovers. And so you may be bringing what may be the best animal you have, but to the priest it didn't look like the best animal, so let's turn this into a money-making venture, and now we'll have the animals ready for you, and you'll have to pay for them. And oh my goodness, you didn't bring the right kinds of coins? Okay, well now you have to change in the coins, and then you have to use our coins to buy our animals that we have, and the money changers would take it and they would make up to 10 times the amount in the exchange. And then instead of charging you $1 or $2 or $5 for a sheep, or a lamb or whatever it might be, I'm going to charge you $50 or $100 or $200. So now you've lost 100% over here, and you're losing another 50 to 100% over here. And who gets that money? The priests get that money. The people that are overseeing the temple get that money. And in the mind's eye, you're thinking, okay, well that money goes to God, but really they were lining their own pockets. And so now here is Jesus, and he has turned the water into wine, and now he is getting ready to head to the temple, which is where we're going to pick up. And starting in verse 13, it says, after this, which was the wedding, it says, he went down to Capernaum, he and his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they stayed there for a few days. Now, when I was growing up, I grew up Catholic, and I never knew that Jesus had other brothers and sisters. I never thought about that. I just, for whatever reason, in my mind, and maybe some of you are the same way and didn't realize this, but I always just thought that Jesus was an only child. I mean, I never thought about, Mary and Joseph continuing on, and, they're married and having a relationship and then having other kids. This actually shows us within here, and it's funny because I've actually had conversation with Catholic people before. I'm like, hey, how many brothers and sisters did Jesus have? And they're like, Jesus didn't have any brothers and sisters. And so for some reason, some of us didn't get that. And I was one of those people. I'm sure there's probably a lot of Catholic people that really knew it. I was probably asleep that day, or because I'm a little bit hyper, I was probably not paying attention, running off, playing basketball, who knows what, when I should have been listening. And I wasn't. So the bottom line is this. Jesus had brothers and sisters. Jesus had an actual family that he was a part of. He was the oldest. He was actually God's son, so we understand that. But Joseph and Mary continued to have children. We had talked about that last week, how Jesus had to take care of Mary until the age of 30 because he was the oldest son. So if you're reading in your Bible, the book of James and the book of Jude, those are two of the half-brothers of Jesus. And for all the books that are in the New Testament, every single one of those people had to know Jesus and had to have seen him as the resurrected Jesus. So that is a very important point to understand, that when you're looking at your Bible and you're reading your Bible, every single one of those people came in touch with the resurrected Jesus. So it wasn't just like, hey, these are my thoughts on it. Hey, I'm looking back and here's what's going on. All of them, every one of them saw Jesus in his resurrected form. So they're heading down to this. And it says disciples and his brothers and sisters. And it says the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. He found in the temple those who sold oxen, sheep, and doves, and the changers of money sitting. He made a whip of cords and threw all out of the temple, both the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the changers' money and overthrew their table. Watch this next verse. To those who sold the doves, he said, take these things out of here. Don't make my Father's house a marketplace. His disciples remember what it was written, zeal for your house will eat me up. So when he was turning everything over, you have to understand that there's a very there's sets of steps that Jesus actually took. He made the cord, and then he ran everybody out of the temple. And he didn't run everybody out of the entire temple. It was just the outer area. When he saw these people sitting, the people that were sitting at the tables were the money changers. They were the ones that accepted money. But it wasn't as if they had the animals sitting on the table as well. He told them, you take those animals out of here. Because if he would have knocked those over, he could kill those animals. And that's not what Jesus is about. And so he has this fit of rage that people want to point to, and really he's just angry because this is against what God intended. And here's one of those moments so that we can understand why. The way the temple was set up, there was 4 different regions. It would start in the middle, then it would go to the second region out, the third region further, and then the last region. The final region, the outer region, was where everybody could go. So everybody in here, we could all walk in the outer region. And then the further you went in, the closer you got to God in their eyes. So the next region in was just for the Jews. The next region inside of that was just for the Jewish men. And the very central region was only for the priests. They were the only ones allowed to go into the Holy of Holies. So what had happened was they had started changing things in their culture to make it like, hey, we're a little bit more elevated. And so the priests are better than the Jewish men. And the Jewish men are better than the Jewish women. And the Jewish women are better than all of the people that aren't Jewish. Because see, at that time, you could become Jewish. You could transfer over and change who you are to become Jewish. You just had to go through this whole 8-day thing and cleansing and all this other kind of stuff to become a Jew. So when Jesus walked into the temple, this area, this outer region, was an area that every single person could go to. And when he saw that it had turned into a place where they were accepting money, and the people that would make the money weren't the people that were out there, and they weren't the people in the next region, and they weren't the people in the next region, they were the people that were in the holiest of holies. Those are the people that were making the money. It was more than he could stand, because they had turned God's house into a place of, this is about the money in which we could make. And he couldn't handle it anymore. See, God is a God that is inviting to everyone. But what had happened was people had gotten so stuck and so fixated on the things that they had that those had actually taken the place of God. Even down to the very money that they were making. And money that they were making off of these people. Remember, the people that are coming to bring in for their sacrifices and changing in their money, these weren't the Gentiles. These were the Jews. So they were actually fleecing their own brothers and sisters for the sacrifices. They had set themselves up that much higher than the rest of them. And then they could go to the next region and the next region and the next region into the temple and hide away from them completely. They could also come all the way back out to check to make sure that, hey, you make sure that you're only keeping 10% of that and we're getting 90%. So let's send out the different people. And on top of it all, they had the protection of the temple police to watch over them. So the one whose time was to be in the Holy of Holies could go and do his job with God. The rest of them could go out and collect the money that they were making throughout the time. All these people are coming in. The ones that are coming into this area right now that are changing the money over and getting the animals for the sacrifice, none of these are the people that should just be in this region. They should actually be inside the next area, which was that for the Jews. So the priests, the holy guys, the religious guys, had taken an entire area from the very people that God was trying to reach, which was everyone. They had taken a place to where you and I could walk into and pray. You and I could come to God. This is the closest that we're going to get to Him. And He said, no. This is the place that we're going to use to make money. And sadly, that's how a lot of people see the church today. There's a lot of people that are out there, whether they're televangelists or whatever it might be, that are prosperity preachers, and we can rip on them left and right all that we want to. That's between them and God. But when it comes down to it, when the almighty dollar gets ahead of the almighty, that's when we get ourselves into trouble. But it's not just that. The priests had taken their temple, and all of a sudden they got to the point where, like, this is what means the most. It's more about the building. It's more about the gym. It's more about the parking lot. It's more about the pumpkin patch. It's more about, and you pick a place, anything, that all of a sudden we're like, this is mine. And we become territorial over it. And when we become territorial over something, we miss God in the process. And what Jesus would do with you and Jesus would do with me in that case, He would come over and He was like, it's time to turn over the tables. We got to turn over the tables because you are missing the very message that I am here to give. And that is that God loves everyone. He loves you. He loves me. He loves your brother. He loves your sister. He loves your husband that you struggle with. He loves your wife that sometimes you don't know what she's thinking. He loves your children. He loves your grandparents. He loves every person around you. He loves people that you don't even know. He loves everyone. And on top of it, everybody is worthy of that love. And many times, it's ourselves who we go to the inner part of our very temple, which is right here, and it's us who shut everyone else out. And Jesus is saying this, if you are in that position right now, there's some point in some time where you've got to turn over those tables. When I was a youth pastor, we were in the top part of the Akron Baptist Temple, like way out of the way. It used to, there was all the Sunday school area, and they put us on the top floor. And the reason they did that was because we were loud and the kids were young, and we had fun. I mean, we just really enjoyed it. So one night, I was teaching a message around this, and I thought, what would be cool is if, we could have a whole message and deal with all the things that teenagers deal with and all the struggles they deal with and how they're pressured for sex and how, go ahead and start drinking, and then there's these parties and people are smoking and just all the stuff that was going on, which is even worse now. And let's do something fun. Let's talk about it first and let's teach it. And then let's do what Jesus did and let's turn over the tables. And so we set it up and we put the table out and we put all the chairs in on top of it, and then we had all the chairs right there like in kind of a pyramid form, and it was kind of a cool thing. And then we stopped and we said, now here's the thing you have to understand. The two feasts are tied to each other. So you have Passover and then the unleavened bread. And what would happen is, and this is where the term spring cleaning comes, is the whole family would come together. And they would go through the entire house to make sure there was nothing leavened anywhere. They would go through every cupboard. They would go through every corner. They would sweep everything out. They would clean everything out. They would have the house completely spotless because you didn't want to have anything that could cause what was considered evil within your household. And that was the symbol for evil. So any yeast and that stuff, we're getting rid of it. The whole house is clean. I mean, you think about that, you're like, man, wouldn't that be great? We get all the kids together and, hey, every spring, even though you moved out, you guys get to come to mom and dad's house and clean the house completely. And mom and dad are like, yeah. And the kids are like, yeah, we're moving to Antarctica or Saskatchewan or somewhere really far away, so we didn't have to come and do that. But this was a family time when they got to get together and they cleaned out everything. So when we came together as a youth group, this was kind of an extended family. We come together here as a church, this is an extended family. And so we talked about all the different stuff that they had to clean out. And we threw it in a basket, and they were like, well, we got to do this as far as, the words I say, and sometimes the thoughts that I have, and then the places that I go, and then how I treat people, and just all these things that we all go through. Lots of teenagers, especially girls. Man, I'm anxious a lot. I worry a lot. I doubt a lot. And we'd throw one thing into the basket, and then one by one they would throw whatever they had to do, and they would go over to the table, and they would just flip the whole table over. And man, was it loud. One after another, we'd knock it over, and then we'd set it back up and set those chairs up, and I'll tell you what, those kids were getting back in line. What else you dealing with? That guy's an idiot. Boop, throw it in there, boom, go throw over the table. I mean, one thing after another. I'm stupid, that kind of stuff. I mean, they really enjoyed it. Well, it kept getting louder and louder and louder, and it was fun. But all of a sudden, you just knew something had kind of changed. And it was at that point that I turned and looked, and there was about 3 or 4 adults just staring into the door, and they're like, what are you doing? Because we were so loud that we had literally, it was a Wednesday night, and other Bible study, and over this huge church, they were coming up like, what is going on? And so now I have a choice. And so when I walked up, I could have just, hey, you go to your class, get out of here, and I just, shut the door in their face. That'd have been the cool thing to do, but I didn't do it. I just went over, I said, hey, what's going on? And they looked at me, they said, what are you doing? I said, we're turning over the tables. And they're like, why? And I go, oh, it's in the Bible. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? Well, Jesus turned it over because there's these things that we have to get rid of, and we have to clean out. And so, they're cleaning out, and then you hear the table flying over and the chairs, and all the kids are setting the chairs back up. Oh, the next one. I mean, they were having such a good time, but they were taking the things that matter to them and getting rid of them first. They were cleaning them out. And so I remember looking at the one guy, because his daughter was in there, and his daughter was really, she was like super, super sweet. You'd never think that she'd had any problems. Family was wonderful, fantastic, all sorts of kind of stuff. And he sees his daughter, and right as he is looking in, she comes up and she throws that thing over, and she ran over, and she was kind of to herself for a lot. She ran over as he was talking to me, and she hugged me and like squeezed me, and I was like, uh-oh, this is like, what do you do? Like, this your dad? And she looked at me, she's like, I needed that so badly. Looked at her dad and said, hi, Dad, and ran back to get in line. And so I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I said, do you want to get in line? And he was just like, nope, everything's good. I'll see you later. So that was cool, right? The kids, these were old chairs and tables, and we had knocked them over, and we had this great thing, but the kids were cleaning this stuff out. And they knew it. And when we looked at that basket afterward, you can't believe how filled it was with the struggles that these kids were going through. Imagine the struggles of these teenagers. Imagine the struggle of your teenagers. Imagine the struggle of your nieces, nephews, kids, all the stuff that they're going through that we don't even realize because they keep it in. And the same goes for us. It doesn't change. The older you get, the more responsibility there is, and the more struggles we have, whether in our minds, in our hearts, in our life, whatever it might be. It's at that point where we have to make the decision, what am I going to clean out? Because here's the thing you have to remember, and this is why this is so cool. Jesus got angry 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. Did you notice I said that? There we go. 4 times. His struggle was this: if something is getting in the way of your relationship with Christ, you need to turn over the tables. If something is getting in the way, if there is an obstacle that is taking place, you need to get in there and clean it out. And sometimes that means talking to family and bringing them in and saying, hey, do you see this, or do you not see this, or here's what's going on. And sometimes it's like, family, I just need you to listen, and I just need you to hear me. It's a good friend you have. It could be your spouse, whoever it might be. This is what's going on in my heart. Here's what's going on in my mind, and I'm carrying it with me every day, and I need to turn over the tables. Would you help me with that? Because we got to clean it out. It's that difficult personality person. It's this inner thing that's happening within us. It's just being complacent. It's like, I just don't know the next step to take with God. We got to clean those things out. It's something you've been carrying for years and years, and you know that you need to get rid of, but you've carried it, and your pride, your arrogance, whatever it might be, you continue to carry it with you. And then on top of it is this. You know that you need to clean it out, and you're choosing not to. And you've become your own obstacle when it comes to your relationship with God. Or you see your kids going through a struggle, you're like, oh, it's the teenage years, let's just allow them to go through it. Everyone else has to grow up, whatever it might be, and you don't even stop long enough to talk to them about it. But man, when they turn those tables over, and when you turn those tables over, and you clean all of that out, you realize that the very things that you needed to let go of were the very things that were keeping you away from your relationship with God. And that's why, and that's when Jesus got angry. So in Ephesians 4, I believe it's 4:26, I think it says it right on here on the back as far as 4:26, it tells us that you can be angry and not sin. So our challenge today is this, and it says this in the last question that we have. It says, would you rather walk by faith with Jesus, or would you rather live your faith hoping for signs that might point to your faith in Him? See, this was a sign for all of His disciples to make a decision. I'm either going to follow this rabbi, I'm either going to take the next step with him, or when things get difficult, I'm just going to go back to all the things I've ever done. I'm just going to go through my same work schedule. I'm just going to go through the time that I check in to the time that I checked out to hopefully get a day off here sooner or later. I'm going to go through whatever it is that I'm going through day after day after day. I'm going to hope that the next sign is going to come. I'm going to, whatever it might be. Or are you going to take some kind of action the way Jesus took action? And the action was this: you got to clean out whatever it is that is stopping you and your relationship with God. It's the most important relationship you're going to have. Because if you get that relationship right, every other relationship falls into place. Because then you take God to be a part of that relationship. But you got to have discussions about it. You got to have, listen, the honey, sweetie, whatever you call your significant other, here's where I'm at right now. I just want to talk about this. I just want you to listen to me and then, hear me out. Here's what I see. Here's what's going on. You got to clean all of that out. But there are going to be times, too, when you have got to turn over the tables. When it is blatant and you see it right before you, and it's a toxic relationship, it's a bad decision, you keep falling back into the same habit kind of thing, where you have got to say enough is enough, because it's stopping me when it comes to my relationship with someone that loves not just me, but everyone in this entire world. And I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But I know at the same time that it's a choice that I make whether or not I accept that love, and it's a choice that I make whether or not I allow that obstacle to stay in my life or to be turned over. And really it comes back down to the would you rather. See, people at this time, when Jesus was doing this, when they saw this miracle, they were like, oh my goodness, it's a sign. Look at this sign. And he's going to heal people that can't see, and he's going to heal people that can't hear, and he's going to heal people that were lepers, that were on the side, and that nobody wanted to be around. It's sign after sign after sign. If you are someone that constantly needs to have a sign, if you're constantly looking for a sign, your faith is going to struggle. Because when you don't see the next sign, and the next sign isn't bigger or it isn't larger, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's no more signs anymore, maybe God isn't paying attention. You created the own obstacle in your life. Walking by faith is not walking by signs. Walking by faith is walking in love. It's walking in hope. It's walking in peace. But whenever these things in our lives are there, we've got to make the decision. I'm going to clean these things out. I'm going to do this with the people around me that I love, so I can, maybe there's different blind spots or areas that I don't quite see or whatever it might be to clean it out. But then every once in a while, there's going to be an obstacle, and you've got to make a decision. But know this. If it is something that is against God, if it is something that is causing you to stumble in your faith, if it is something that is keeping you away from a loving Savior, it's time to turn over the tables. And you can do it in such a way that it doesn't hurt anybody. See, when Jesus turned over those tables, he made sure, he said, you pick up those doves, you pick up those things, and you just get them out of here. But all this money and stuff like that, I'm throwing it over because it's just stuff. And if you read the very end, the last part of this chapter, this is what happens. It says, Jesus answered them, destroy this temple. I'm sorry, it's verse 18. The Jews therefore answered him, what sign do you show us, seeing that you do these things? Jesus answered them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will rise it up. The Jews therefore said, it took 46 years to build this temple. Will you raise it up in 3 days? But he spoke of the temple of his body. See, that's where the cleansing has to start for us to take place. It has to start within our body, has to start with the things in our heart, has to start with the things in our mind, has to start in the things that come out of our mouth. But he spoke of the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he said, and they believed the scripture and the word which Jesus had said. Now when he was in Jerusalem at Passover during the feast, many believed in his name, observing the signs which he did. But Jesus didn't entrust himself to them because he knew everyone and because he didn't need for anyone to testify concerning man, for he himself knew what was in man. See, God knows what's inside of us. He knows that it's way easier to walk by faith whenever we have signs, and especially if they keep showing up out of nowhere. But it's when things get difficult and the signs don't come that show our faith the most. It's when we deal with that difficult personality. It's when we stand up for the ones who need to be stood up for. It's when we make the decision to go in and do the right thing because it is the right thing according to what God's word teaches. It's when we love and care for others because God loves and cares for us. It's when we share hope. It's when we are kind. It's when we are uplifting and encouraging. And many times when we notice it the most are when we have gatherings like this. We have gatherings within our family, which that's been something that's been tried to be taken away from us, right? We need those moments so that we could recognize Jesus, but at the same time, we need those moments alone with God so that we can then go out to share that with others. So I want to challenge you this week. Start by cleaning it out. It's house clean. Maybe you need to ask some tough questions to your husband, to your wife, to your kids. Hey, what are you seeing with this? Where is it I need to clean out? What are some things that are going on? Maybe you have people within your life that you see the obstacles and you need to be the one to step in to be that strong person of faith to share that, you know what, it is difficult right now. And yes, this is an obstacle, but let's get through this season and let's move you out of it. Maybe you're in a relationship right now that you know that you shouldn't be in, that is toxic. Let me point something out here real quick. This does not include a married relationship. If it's a married relationship, that's a covenant you took before God. It's time to battle. That's what God's words teaches us. And so it may not be easy, and those obstacles may be even more, but you got to fight through it. But let's clean out the temple. And then while we're cleaning out the temple, if we see those things that just have to be addressed right now, let's turn over some tables. Now, next week, who would love it if you walked in and we had a table up here with all these chairs and just one by one we just came up and got to throw them over? Right? We might get people from online, right? It's only going to be like 5 degrees. See, when I shared that, there was something about that made you like, oh, that sounds fun, and oh, that's something we can do. You can do this in your life. Your tables with your chairs on it are different than my tables with my chairs on it. Let's turn them over. Let's clean things out. And then next week we'll dive into chapter 3 of John. So right where you sit, if you just close your eyes and let's go ahead and say a prayer. God, as we come to you, Lord, at this time, as the praise team is coming up to sing this final song today, Lord, this is a moment where we get to take this step of faith. For some, it's taking that step of faith that don't know you as their Savior. For others, it's taking that step of faith and saying, Lord, I have so many obstacles, I just need to turn over some tables. And for some, it's just, God, there's some things that I got to clean out so that I can have a better walk with you. Lord, whatever it is, it could be a combination of all three. It could be just 2 of them. It could be just 1 of them. Whatever it is, God, help us to come to you first. Help us to seek you. Help us to figure out whatever those obstacles are within our life. Lord, help us to clean those away so we can walk with you because you love us so much that you gave everything. Lord, we love you and we thank you for your many blessings. In your name we pray. Amen. Would you all please rise? I'll bow your heads for a moment, please. If you've never taken that step of faith, this is that opportunity that you have to take that step toward God. It's the outer reach of the temple that is meant for everyone. And when you take that step, you actually get the entire temple with it because you get to go straight to God. It's kind of neat. But it starts with a choice that we make. Maybe you're trying to clean stuff up and you got to clean things out and you've got obstacles and you're like, once I fix this obstacle or once I clean this thing up, then I'll come to God. God said, no. You come to me and then we'll get rid of all those obstacles together. So if you've never taken that step where you've said, I need you, God. I've done it my way long enough, and today I want to stop long enough to recognize you as God, and I want to ask you into my heart as my personal Savior. If that's a step that you're ready to take today where you want to admit that God loves you so much that he sent his one and only Son, that Son died on the cross and then 3 days later rose from the dead to show you that you can have eternal life, and today you want to ask him into your heart, if that's a step that you're ready to take, just right where you're standing, just raise your hand. If you're online, please let us know. Reach out to us this week at the church so we can call you and talk to you more about what that means. All right, now here's a tough question. People at home, sitting here, if you have something that you know that you need to clean out, if you have an obstacle that is keeping you and others around you away from God, and you need to turn over the tables, and you're ready to do so, just right where you stand, I just want you to lift your hand up right to God. Heavenly Father, help us clean things out, Lord. We know that these things that seem small, insignificant, but God, they can grow and they can grow and they can grow if they're not tended to. Lord, to the point to where sometimes we just need to turn over those tables. God, we thank you for the example of Jesus. And God, I know that at times it gets tough, but Lord, that is when our faith stands up the most because you stood up the most for us. We love you. As we sing this final verse, Lord, help us to lift our voices and our hearts to you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.